Welcome, and here's our scratch art project. This is kind of a reverse scratch art. We're going to draw our picture first instead of scratching it, but let me show you some more examples of a scratch art project. Here's one of my first ones that I did. Here's another one. We did a ABC book at one time. This was a student one. That's the F for Fox for our little book that we made. Here's another one. This is one of my favorite projects that I have sixth graders do. This one was done with oil pastels, but I like the crayon better. So let me just show you what you're going to need. Of course, you're going to need your piece of paper. You're going to need a pencil and a Sharpie. And then you're going to need crayons. And once you're done with the crayon part, then you're going to need some shoe polish. After the shoe polish, you're going to need some kind of scratching tool. So I've got this little tool to scratch with. You can also use bobby pins or a paper clip. All right, let's get started. All right, so you're going to draw your little design on your piece of paper. I'm just going to do a simple design for this video. It's going to be a Christmas tree. We're doing Christmas pictures at the moment. Okay, and this is going to have just some circles for ornaments. And it's going to be fairly simple. Okay. Not loving that one. Let's do a little one. Maybe whatever. Okay. So there's my little simple design. I'm now going to take and go over it with Sharpie. I'll do my ornaments first. And then I'm going to erase my pencil line. In your picture, if a horizon line works, then that's good because then you can break up that background space. Okay, now I'm going to take an eraser and I'm going to erase my pencil lines because I want to clean up my piece of paper here. So I'll just quickly and carefully get rid of my pencil lines. Try not to crunch up your paper like I just did. Get rid of the shavings. Okay, now I'm ready to do the crayon part. When you do the crayons, you're going to have to push hard. So if I want my top ornament to be more like a star, I'm going to fill that in nice and yellow. Okay, very, very dark. You're going to have to push hard. Okay, for my tree, I'm going to come along here, and I'm not going to worry too much about the texture right now because I can get the texture when I scratch it. Okay, so this is going to be, now if I just do it lightly like this, see how I can see the white of the paper? That will turn black. That will not work in this method with this technique. Okay, you have to push this really hard. Get rid of, I call it dandruff. Get rid of the dandruff on the paper. It's got to be solid and filled in. Okay, so once you have this all filled in with crayon, the whole entire paper. So if I'm going to have, say, a blue background, then I need to fill this all in solid. That's all got to be filled in clear to the edge. Now, when you're working with your paper and you're coloring this, you're going to want to use some newspaper. So if I put this newspaper under here, as I bring this out to the edge, then I'm not making marks on the table. And then you don't have to scrub off wax off the tables. Okay. Plus this actually works nice as a pad underneath my picture anyway. Okay, so use that newspaper to protect your table. Okay, so I'm going to use that little piece of newspaper for that, and then I'm going to get a different picture that's all colored. So this one now is all done. So I've pushed hard, I've got my crayon on there, and this is my picture completed. Okay, so I'm going to take my newspaper, make sure my newspaper covers all the way around my picture, and now I'm going to take my shoe polish. Okay, now I'm going to take my shoe polish. It's just black shoe polish. I'm going to put a puddle in the middle. So you're going to be like, whoo, what is going on? Right? But I'm going to spread this. It's got a spongy end. So I just squeeze out a little bit of the polish, shoe polish. And then I'm just going to spread it throughout my whole picture. Okay? And I don't want to move too fast or lift it up or plunge it and get it full of bubbles, because then you get a bunch of bubbles on your picture and you don't want that. Okay, so I'm going to put the lid back on, and then I'm going to take this sponge brush, okay, and I'm just going to smooth out all that polish that's on there. So it's nice and smoothed out. I don't have a bunch of bubbles happening. Okay, and just get that nice and even. Okay, then I have to let this dry. So while this is drying, I'll just move this and let it dry. We're pretty dry here in Utah, so this dries pretty quick. Okay, and then I have another one that is ready to start scratching. So this is what it's going to look like. So this is a different picture, obviously, but it's going to look, you can kind of see your picture through there. So it's going to be totally black. So then you're going to take your little scratch tool and you're going to start scratching. So I'm going to save that one for a solid example. But here's one where I started scratching. So this one I started a while ago. So if I want to have little skinny scratches, then I'm going to hold this tool straight up and down, and then my marks are the little tiny scratches. Okay, but if I tip this to the side, then I can get some bigger marks. So I'm going to scratch off one object at a time. So if I were scratching off my Christmas trees that I did, I would scratch one ornament at a time. I would scratch the tree and make a tree texture. So I want to do this one object at a time. Okay. So that little hill is done. And it's going to make lots of little shavings. So you're going to want to like use your newspaper. Okay. If you have a bunch of shavings, get them over the garbage can. Okay. So maybe on this next hill that I can see here, maybe I'll do my scratches the other direction so that I have some textures happening and some directional lines showing this next hill. Okay. So this is just a picture I did up on the mountain at one of our contests that we had. Okay. So I'm just going to scratch this off one part at a time. Do not scratch it off like you're scratching off a winning scratch off ticket. That's not what we want. So I'm going to leave some of the black lines on there to show some texture, and then I'll just finish that texture over here on this side. Okay. So when I did, I'm going to move this. When I did my little Christmas picture here that I had at the beginning, this one on the snow, I decided to go horizontal with my strokes. On the metal part of the sleigh, I decided to go opposite to have it go a different direction. On the sleigh, I went crosshatch. I went horizontal and vertical. Okay, in each leaf, I went the direction that the leaf would grow. The details, the textures on the leaf. The little teddy bear. So let's see if we can get it to not glare so much. I'll just have to go right here. But I did the tip where I did tiny, tiny, tiny little strokes to show furry texture for the teddy bear. Okay, so do one object at a time, one shape at a time, and design your picture with your textures and how you scratch it off. Okay, so once your picture's dry, so mine's not probably dry totally yet. Looks like that trunk's dry. It's got some wet areas there. But I'm just going to, like I say, go one shape at a time. So this little trunk I know is dry. So I'm going to come along and give it little trunk textures. So I'm just going to draw little lines and let it scratch them out and create a texture for the trunk of my Christmas tree here. Okay. And then this is the fun part, I think. The scratching off of the shoe polish. Okay. If you don't get the shoe polish dark or the crayon thick enough, then when you go to scratch off, it's not going to release anything. Okay, so your crayon has to be thick. That's important. Okay, so I just scratch out this, and that is my first little tree trunk there. Now I gotta let the rest of it dry, but that's how you make your scratch arts. And then when you're all done scratching this, then I will laminate it, and it won't be messy and dirty anymore. And you'll have a lovely little, in this project, a Christmas scratch art picture. Okay, good luck.